the right number on, but it would be in the post next 10 days. So I found a better solution than she did working there. Oh, fucking hell. Yeah. We've got election.
Got an election?
Yeah, we've got election in the UK. Tory party is probably going to get wiped out, or near enough, after having a massive majority. Then we've got the idiot Labours in there, and if they don't fall apart in government, they're going to get wiped out in the next election. It's absolute fucking chaos.
It sounds about like the way we do it here in the States. They swap back and forth. Sometimes Republicans win, sometimes Democrats win, but nothing fundamentally changes.
Yeah. That's why they don't want Trump, because he's going to change things, or so he says.
Well, they don't want Trump because he hasn't been in politics forever like the rest of them. He hasn't built up the networks and the exchange of favors and things. He won't be as controllable. He occasionally says the quiet part out loud. That's what they don't like. He's not as manageable.
Yeah, this is it. And Tulsi Gabbard's 12-1, and I keep putting money on her to be the vice president, because to me it seems a logical choice.
He could do worse.
Yeah, I mean, the other one's the favourite there, Tim Scott, I think, or Tom Scott, and he's a bit of a blowhard, and he'd probably be good as a cabinet post, so to speak, like Yellen and all that are. But
I think Tom Cotton was the last word or the last name that I heard mentioned.
Yeah, I don't, and I seem to think that it will be female pick. So
it almost has to be Tulsi then, or somebody we've never heard of.
It's even Nikki Haley. Stefanik's been mentioned.
I know the name. I can't picture her.
She was the one who interviewed those DEI picks who were presidents of Harvard and MIT when they asked, is calling for the genocide of the Jews hate speech. Do you remember that?
That I remember.
Yeah. Stefanik was the woman who was asking them that, and they were too stupid to realise, that
they were giving the right answer. It just wasn't the answer she wanted. It was a stupid question. It was very, very, very slanted. There was only one answer that would be acceptable, and she wasn't going to be happy with anything else. Yeah, but speech is not violence. Speech is not hate. The whole premise of her question was ridiculous.
Yeah, she was asking the question in the framework of hate speech. So in the framework of hate speech, is that hate speech?
Well, you have to judge that on a case-by-case basis. There's no blanket thing that says all speech that isn't nice to Israel is by default hate speech. That's ridiculous. That's stupid.
Yeah, and I don't agree with hate speeches full stop. And if I was in power, I'd be getting rid of all the hate speech laws. I said, well, work it out, debate and things like that.
I did manage to bring us both in as solo links into OBS, and it seems to be working. I'll know when we finish up whether or not I've actually got a recording or not. But it looks like it might be working.
Yeah, well, try it from your end. It doesn't matter. I mean, so we don't exactly have we do have a two-party system, but with other parties. So you've got Scotland, they've got the Scottish nationalists. You've got Wales, they've got Plaid Cymru, Welsh nationalists. And you've got all the parties that are different in Ulster as well. So the Ulster Unionists usually link up with the Conservatives, the Sinn Féin and the SDLP, they will probably link up with Labour and a Labour government, so to think. And the nationalists tend to try horse trade with whoever, but they're probably more on the left. It's one of these weird things that because Irish nationalists and Scottish nationalists didn't want to be associated with the Nazis, they adopted nationalism, but then they started going left to get not to get associated with European fascism. So what you have is extreme left-wing nationalists, which is probably called National Socialists, but it's a bit ironic.
That's a trigger word right there.
Yeah.
I think the last time we had National Socialists on the scene, ended up with a World War.
Yeah. So they're by any measure a bit basket case. So we've got Tories. They could go down to probably 80 to 120 seats of her prediction. I've heard the worst case scenario is 3 seats, from which is unprecedented, which in the age of Trump is possible because a month is a long time before the election. I could see the reform making ground and getting seats, but they need to build momentum and just overhaul Labour, which I can't really see happening. So we've probably got a Labour government, and Keir Starmer, it's like a halibut that's been sitting on a fishmonger's stall for too long, and the eyes are sunken, and it's like that. Yeah, there's no life or charisma in it whatsoever, and it's a lawyer, so he opens his mouth, and the full tongue.
Enough said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I heard that they once added an amendment a couple hundred years ago to ban lawyers from standing for office because they thought they were just disreputable liars. I think it was in the mid or early 1800s in the US, but it was struck down as being unconstitutional. But I think it's a good idea, though.
I could get behind that. Absolutely.
Yeah. You can tell a lot by a man by what his profession is, yeah. And I don't trust lawyers in any party or anyone who does deception for a living. Like you've got Justin Trudeau, he's an actor or drama teacher or whatever. You've got David Cameron, he's a PR man. The professional deceivers, the actors as well. Well, you've got Schwarzenegger, he's an actor. Professional wrestlers you can include in that, but I don't know about what planet Jesse Ventura's on. But it's the same sort of thing. They're sort of actors, aren't they? Professional wrestlers.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of theater to that profession, as I understand it. Never really been a fan. Don't know that much about it from direct experience, but I take it that it is very much entertainment, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's a problem because I knew some constituency conservatives on the selection committees, and they're usually women. So you get these lawyers, these smooth-tongued guys go on, yes, blah, blah. They say all the right things. They push all the right buttons, but that's what they're skilled at and nothing else. So all these selection committees have picked up all these clones. They went to a narrow range of school. They're obviously mainly in so many professions, lawyers and that. And when it comes to, they've no experience of making stuff. They've no experience. Their instinct is to regulate because they're lawyers. Whereas if you have an engineer and you give them a problem, they're going to look for a working solution. And then economists might say, let's assume there's a solution. And but a lawyer said, well, what laws will we need here? So there's an inbuilt problem.
Or the other side of that coin, though, is lawyers are going to say, how can we get around laws? Or both at the same time. I mean, that's a lawyer for you. It's what kind of laws can we pass that will prevent other people from getting what we want while making it easier for us to get it?
Well, it's less complicated with the Biden regime, and to an extent with the Conservatives over here. They just ignore the laws and don't enforce them. They don't have to work their way around them, because in a lot of cases there isn't a mechanism to challenge them. They just ignore them.
Well, that's been every administration ever here in America, as far back as I could remember. I mean, if we had actual checks and balances and people were actually held accountable for doing things they weren't supposed to do and breaking laws and making laws that were clearly unconstitutional, we can go back to Bush Jr. He would have been thrown under a prison for lying us into the Iraq War and everything that was involved with that. Or we could go back to Reagan and Iran-Contra and all of that stuff. I mean, all of them do it. And that's why it doesn't matter whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in office here. They're all doing it. And it's the actual system itself that's broken.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, you're right on Bush Jr. with the Patriot Act, which is probably unpatriotic and
they love to name things the opposite of what they actually are.
Yeah, it's like the Democrats. They're not very democratic.
I refuse to call the Democrat Party the Democratic Party. I haven't added the IC on the end in a long time because they're clearly not.
No, it is. I mean, if they adopt politics where the philosophy is everything is a construct based on power, that's the way they're going to view the world as well. So it's just, to them, it's just a power grab. Mm-hmm. So this is where I think it was Dave Rubin. I don't know if you come across him.
I know that name.
Or was it Brett Weinstein? One of the intellectual dark web types said, even though he was a Democrat, they need to remove the top two layers of the Democratic Party because it's all corrupt. He said you got to get them out one way or the other by Trump or another way. He said they got to go because they're just corrupt. And now you got Macron sending NATO troops to Ukraine. Now Russia's said that's World War III. I mean, and Biden, I mean, the US has enough clout that they can sort of kneel on Macron's neck to haul him in. The fact he is running his mouth off continually and they haven't done anything, science sort of suggests that Biden's going along with it. Because the military industrial complex, you know, and all their chums will be making the money and there'll be kickbacks for, you know, Pelosi and whoever makes more money since they've been in government, and a lot of CEOs do.
It could be that, or it could be that Biden's just so out of it that there is nobody running the policy on that. There's like maybe Blinken and whoever else, like in the State Department or the Pentagon upper echelons, might be making the decisions. But as far as setting the tone for the actual the policy and the message for NATO or the allies, I think they're all left to their own devices right now because Biden's a drooling freaking idiot. He's demented.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows how to tie his shoes, much less tell another country how they should be conducting business.
Well, I saw some podcasts, and they reckon that he on some of his speeches he comes across as being very cogent before going back into the drooling routine, and they're saying they're giving him drugs to pep up his mind and that amphetamines of some sort, so he can come across as fairly cogent for a limited amount of time.
But that's the thing, the limited amount of time. I think the reason his speeches, like the State of the Union, any event that he's at, he doesn't talk for as long as historically presidents have gone on for. And I think that's because there is a limited window of time after they give him the Adderall or whatever that stuff is, that he's actually on the ball. And then after that, he just starts winding down and probably has to have a nap for 8 or 10 hours. And I don't think it's as effective as it used to be. It doesn't seem to be working as well, or they're afraid to get it going.
Yeah, I've heard Adderall mentioned, but it must be some sort of amphetamine.
Oh, I'm sure it's a cocktail. It's whatever they've whipped up in the lab back there.
Yeah, it's scary. It really is.
And it's got to be burning him out. I mean, that stuff, you can't amp somebody up like that, especially repeatedly. And not sooner or later there's going to be a crash. I think they're actually making him worse by doing that. And that's why he's falling off the cliff and getting worse faster and faster, because they keep juicing him up for an event or a rally or whatever. And then every time it takes a toll, and eventually it's just not going to work at all.
Don't the two main parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, don't they have a sort of summer conference where they confirm presidential runners, etc.? I think
yes, they've got they call them conventions.
Yeah.
I can't remember when the Republican convention is going to be, but the Democrat convention is coming up, I think, maybe in October. I don't remember specifically, but it's going to be in Chicago. Okay. And I know it's going to be after the first debate. So actually, the Democrats are putting Biden out there to debate Trump when he's not even officially the candidate yet, which the whole thing from top to bottom this year has just been weird.
I think the Republican one is in July, because the bets are settled on my betting account for the vice president candidate. So whoever Trump picks will be before August. So I think I saw somewhere like it's the 20th of July, I think, or somewhere around there is Republican convention, which makes sense. So I thought that.
Let me look that up real quick.
We have party conferences in UK, and they're usually in the autumn, but they're all on hold now because of the elections.
It's scheduled to be held August 19th through the 22nd in Chicago. So it's going to be August, not October. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's all right. Do you know where the Republican one is?
Let me see. Looks like it's going to be, where is it? It's going to be in Milwaukee.
All right.
From July 15th through the 18th.
Oh, it's pretty close. I've got my betting thing up, and US presidential election 2024. Vice presidential candidate, you've got Tim Scott 7-2. Then you've got Doug Burgum, he's 5-1. You've got JD Vance 6-1. Marco Rubio 9-1. Then Tulsi Gabbard 12. Ben Carson 12. Elise Stefanik 14-1. Nikki Haley 16-1. No chance. Lee Zeldin 18-1. I'll just do the next three. 20-1 is Vivek Ramaswamy, 33 Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and 33-1 Mike Pompeo. I mean, of those, half of them are laughable. I think, especially Nikki Haley.
But I don't think he and Rubio get along all that well either.
Little Marco.
He may surprise us. That would be very, very Trump-like to pick somebody who he's had scraps with in the past. Yeah, just so people would see it coming. But I would be surprised.
Well, looking at the list, if it is true that it's going to be a female vice president, you've got Tulsi Gabbard, Ellie Stefanik. Let's ignore Nikki Haley because I don't think she's got a chance. Looking down the list from others I mentioned, you've got Tucker Carlson at 50-1. That seems absurd, but apparently Trump's Ivanka Trump wants Tucker Carlson. So I don't know how much pull she's got. The next one is Kristi Noem at 66-1. She's had all her problems. Carrie Lake 100-1. She has her problems. I really couldn't recognise the other one, apart from Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's 100-1. And I don't think Trump's going into this one just to troll, so it won't be Marjorie Taylor Greene. They've got Sean Hannity at 100-1 here. Michael Flynn, that could be one at 40-1. That will piss a lot of people off. But that's what the book says here in my betting account. So Tim Scott favourite, but the short money on the female candidates are Tulsi Gabbard and Ellie Stefanik. So I'm hoping for Tulsi for a result at the bookies anyway.
Yeah, I think actually Tulsi would probably be the best overall pick for him, as far as broadening his base. And I mean, she's been working hard to build up her conservative bona fides. So I think she would be a good partner. They would have a good working relationship. I don't remember her actually, like locking horns with him or being particularly anti-Trump or anything like that.
I was quite opposite. I heard something. I can only verify the first half of it. 10 years ago, Nigel Farage was the first foreigner or non-American to appear at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. This year, they were all Xavier Millet and all these Conservative leaders were all over the world. They were here this year. That was 10 years ago. And this year, Tulsi Gabbard gave a speech at CPAC. And you listen to that, how much that would chime in with Trump. I think she's the first elected Democrat or former Democrat to appear at CPAC. So, yeah, you're on the money then. She has been one of those reaching out. The only other person reaching out, I would say, is Bill Maher, and he's a comedian. Do you ever see him?
Bill Maher?
Bill Maher, yeah. But he's not a politician.
Oh, he's not even a comedian. He's a dumbass as far as I'm concerned.
He gets it right sometimes. He's a stoner, isn't he?
I think he's a former alcoholic, and I think he may have actually pickled his brain back in the day. He's never been particularly funny, and I guess unless his writers were on point that week, but he himself, he's rabidly Islamophobic. He says he's an atheist, but he has a extra special hatred for Islam. So don't know what's going on with that. I think a combination of maybe September 11th, 9/11 when they flew the planes in the towers. I think a combination of that and Trump broke his brain completely. Whatever was left of it, it got shattered. And now he's funny, but not in a good way. He's not funny the way he's trying to be. He's funny in that you can't believe anyone would say such stupid shit.
Yeah, but if you study Islam, there's a lot to not like about it.
There's a lot to not like about all of them. I mean, the Bible, the Christian Bible, is full of rape and killing women and children and genocides, and they're all equally abhorrent in my view.
Yeah, but I think it's 95% of the global terrorism problems are stemming from Islam in the East, in the West, all over the place. So it's
well, when you say terrorism, I think a lot of times people bundle into that term legitimate resistance to occupying forces and interference and people invading their countries and stealing their resources. And when you fight back against somebody doing that stuff, that's not terrorism. I'm sorry, it's just not.
I'm using definition from the Geneva Convention, so it's the deliberate targeting of civilians.
Terrorism is committing some kind of a violent act in order to have a political outcome. You want to achieve some kind of political outcome through violent means. That is terrorism. We studied that at the academy when I went through the law enforcement academy. That's the textbook definition of terrorism.
It's gone through definition creep as well. I see, it is misused a fair bit. But there is, I could look up the definition. Webster's dictionary might have one.
Well, I mean, they do constantly redefine terms. They've done it for everything from liberal to terrorism to hate speech. I mean, our Congress recently said that being anti-Zionist is the same as being anti-Semitic, and that is complete bollocks.
Depends on your definition of Zionism. It says here, systematic use of terror, especially as a means of coercion. Well, that sounds circular. I'm on Merriam-Webster here. They have been arrested for acts of terrorism. Let's see, first known use is 1795. This is shit. Hang on, let's hit it. A systematic use of terror, especially as a means of coercion. What's terror? That's probably reading one of Blandscape's posts, isn't it?
Oh, come on. Don't start picking on Blandy, man.
All right. Yeah, it's a mutual friend of ours who's, But you see what I mean? This is Merriam-Webster dictionary. You'd expect to have a decent definition. Hang on, have a look at something else. Shall we risk with Wikipedia definition? There is no consensus, scholarly or legal, of the definition of terrorism. Fair enough. Various legal systems and government agencies use different definitions of terrorism. Yeah, the enemy. The government has been reluctant to formulate an agreed upon legally binding definition. Difficulties arise from the fact that the term has become politically and emotionally charged. A simple definition proposed to the United Nations Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice by terrorism studies scholar Alex P. Schmid in 1992, based on the already internationally accepted definition of war crimes as a peacetime equivalent of war crimes, was not acceptable. That was what I was alluding to. And
they came up with all that gobbledygook because they keep changing what they call terrorism and who they call terrorists. And nowadays, terrorist is just anybody who doesn't do what we want, basically.
Yeah, I mean, who was it? Was that FJB? I mean, Biden, who branded MAGA support, or someone on CNN branded MAGA supporters terrorists. So 72 million Americans are suddenly reclassified as terrorists. I mean, what's that supposed?
I don't remember that specifically, but I don't watch those shows. But I'm not surprised, and I'm sure somebody on there has done that. It all started when Hillary Clinton dumped millions of people into a basket of deplorables, and it's just all been downhill ever since.
Yeah. While I'm on Yandex, I'm going to look up CNN called MAGA terrorists. CNN's Labor Day message. Let me see. If you're MAGA, you're a terrorist. Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? That's CNN anchor Jim Acosta. I think they missed a W off that, wanker. Declared on Labor Day weekend that Trump supporters are like the American Taliban, which he nicknamed MAGA ban. Acosta said, leading figures on the far right have been sounding the alarm on Afghanistan evacuees all week. The refugees are coming, the refugees are coming. And over on Fox, human manure spreader Tucker Carlson has floated yet another race-baiting conspiracy theory that tens of thousands of African refugees will be sent over this country in order to change the outcome of elections. Acosta then showed clips of Tucker Carlson and Madison Cawthorn discussing bloodshed, and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and MTG urging telecommunications companies to not to cooperate with the Select Committee investigation in blah, 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 January 1. Acosta goes on, so they're quoting him further down. People's Voice TV, I don't know, this is a bit dodgy. But yeah, I've heard that from many sources, but I look for the date on this. September the 6th, 2021. Didn't Jimmy Acosta get fired?
I know that name, but like I said, I don't follow those shows. So all I know is the name. I couldn't even tell you what he looks like right off.
He's one of the CNN's performing monkeys like Don Lemon and the rest of them.
I presumed. Yeah, I thought that went without saying. Oh, he's with CNN. Well, enough said.
Yeah. Well, it's the same at Fox. I mean, the only one I watched there was Tucker Carlson. So,
yeah, you and a lot of other people. I think he had the #1 show on cable news. When they got rid of him, it wasn't like his star was falling or anything. He was at the top of the game when they actually booted him out, which was silly just from a business perspective.
Yeah, apparently Fox lost 2/3 of their viewers. Now he's getting phenomenal numbers on X or Twitter, whatever you want. Elon's territory. Yeah, I like Tucker because I don't always agree with him, but he plows his own path, so to speak. You can see that he was being controlled, but then probably about a year before he got the sack, I got the impression that he'd upgraded his researchers. His arguments were coming more on point, and it was becoming more watching. Because I saw him years ago, I just thought he was just a bit nasally with a fake laugh. Well, he's got a horrible laugh, but anyway. But yeah, he did seem to come on point, which obviously upset the establishment. So they were going to come after him one way or the other. And they probably still will now he's been offered to interview Putin. I haven't seen that, by the way, but yeah, I do catch.
I did watch that. I think he could have done a lot more homework, and maybe it wouldn't have ended up being Putin giving him a history lesson as much as it did. But I commend him for doing the interview at all. I mean, to begin with, kudos to him for doing that. What other mainstream or legacy news, whatever you want to call it, who else would have done that? Absolutely nobody. It would have been a death knell for their careers. Of course, they'd already bumped Tucker. So what did he have to lose? And so I think he actually absolutely did the right thing by having that interview. I think he could have gone in there a little more knowledgeable, and it could have been a better interview, but I don't think it went all that badly. Glad he did it.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't got his researchers on hand when he's going in there for an interview. And what Putin did, I wouldn't call it a sort of dirty trick, but he gave a long sweep of Russian history. And there's a hell of a lot of it. And I've studied the economic history from about the 1850s up to the Bolshevik Revolution, where then suddenly everything came censored. And they're doing fantastic, so to speak. And obviously there's Dostoevsky and other writers that I've read. So Russia has a rich culture. So if he's going to give it a sweep of history, he's just going to effectively drag Tucker Carlson. It's like if you were giving them, if I was interviewing you, you gave a history of West Virginia or something. There's only sort of snippets I know from here or there, you know.
Well, Tucker kind of invited that by, going straight to ignoring everything else and saying, all right, well, what about this incident? What about, this situation? And to actually, because nobody from America will go and interview Putin, there's never been a conversation about any of this stuff before, at least not for an American audience. And so he kind of had to go, wait, we can't start there. We've got to go back a little bit and get the context of where all this is coming from. Now, if Americans were actually exposed to other foreign leaders, especially the ones we consider adversarial, on a regular basis, these discussions would have been happening ongoing. It would have been a process, a series of conversations, and it wouldn't have had to be like a history dump because nobody had been exposed to any of that information before, because our media are not going to go there. They just won't. They refuse.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, so the two things, if we're going to switch back to the British election coming up, if you want to know what a basket case the Conservative Party is, they called election, so they're arguing for continuity. And they call the election on the day of a world-famous independence revolution, the US revolution, July 4th. Now, to me, are they trying to be ironic, or are they that fucking stupid? Because the opposition could use that. Yeah, we won independence from the Conservatives. The next thing they do, they get the leader, Rishi Sunak. He gives a speech outside the shipyard where they built the Titanic. I don't even have to explain that one. Someone, the PR people, whoever the Tories have got, probably lied on their CV or something, or they got them under an archway where they had a bottle of methylated spirit and some fentanyl or whatever they're taking, because those are probably the two most basic and simplest but massive fuck-ups any political party could do going into the election. What was it? Howard Dean, who was the first political meme, where he went, yeah. And that
the scream, yeah.
Yeah, Dean's scream, yeah. Sadly, that ruined his career, and it was very funny, I have to say. But he did that. That's one politician do that thing. You've got the political party and its whole apparatus. They've done two similar things in the first week of the campaign for re-election. So you see what it's like last time. They're stupid. There's another word for it.
Yeah, it seems like somebody would have at least heard of the word optics and been looking out for things like that. But
Sunak calling the election, he's a bit of a short guy, but he was on this massive left turn that made him look small. He was pissing down. There was nobody holding an umbrella, so he's getting soaked. He looks like a TV character, Roland Rat, anyway. So looking like a drowned rat. And beyond the number 10, they've got someone playing D Ream's song, Things Can Only Get Better, which was theme tune for Labour's election in 2000. I mean, if you were making a comedy sketch, you could have done it better, you know. So he said, right, we're going to have an election where we should continue in government. We're having it on July the 4th. You know, and you think, you know, it's surprised you could hear the slapping of foreheads within a 4-mile radius or something. It's like this election campaign. I'll probably pay attention to a bit of it, but it's only for its mainly for its comedy dimension, because there's going to be this sort of stupidity from all the parties, and Keir Starmer, who's likely to be the next prime minister, who already said looks like a dead fish. If I could sum him up in one word, that word would be mediocre. Personality and everything. I think he's taking his orders from Blair, which probably isn't a good idea anyway, considering how much Tony Blair's screwed up. But yeah, that's all I've got to say. I think the Scottish nationalists who have ruled Scotland for a long time and are intensely corrupt, with all their leaders being arrested now for charged with this, that, and the other. I think they're going to collapse. Labour are going to take up a lot of seats in Scotland as well. I don't know if Conservatives will get any, probably not. If they're going to get 3 seats, I don't think any of them are going to be in Scotland. So I don't know. I've stayed away from the UK betting as that. I've heard a rumour that Reform are most likely to win Clacton-on-Sea, which is Essex, which is hopefully a replacement for the Conservative Party, and that's 13-2. But I'd probably like a bit better odds to take a chance on that. But I still might try and weed out some seats where there might be an upset, like Rishi Sunak. I might find out, look up the odds for him to lose his seat, because he wasn't elected, he was installed, because we went through a period of about 4 or 5 different prime ministers, one after the other. Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, was it Rishi Sunak? I don't know, but yeah.
The ones they covered the most on this side of the pond were like the Boris Johnson, and I have heard Rishi Sunak, and that the lady's name is vaguely familiar, but I don't remember hearing much about her. Yeah,
she was prime minister for 47 days because she made the markets go haywire, and she got an idiot as Chancellor of the Exchequer, and who announced a couple of policies which made markets tank. So there wasn't a lot of and because she was more anti-establishment side of the Conservative Party, the establishment wanted rid of her anyway. So then it was a case of trying to get the right stalking horses to get one of their people installed. Because Rishi Sunak is a former city worker who's married some Indian billionairess, you know. So he's a pure globalist. So he's one of the global elite we talk about. Not exactly conspiracy, but whereas we've got Keir Starmer, much the same thing, apart from being mediocre. So it's not going to be much of a change, apart from all the bad policies we've got. Labour have got them in spades, but they keep dialing them back now because they realise, hang on, if we don't produce any fuel, you know, people aren't going to like us. So, I mean, a lot of the green policies are just pure insane. I mean, with our coastline, they should be going for tidal, hydroelectric, or geothermal. Even that's what America should be doing around Yellowstone as well. They've got all this cheap energy there, masses of it. You don't really need expensive. You don't really need over dependence on fossil fuel either.
Well, the thing is with that, you can't transmit electricity from one side of the country to the other. It's just there's too much loss. Now, if we had a room temperature superconductor or something like that, where there was minimal, if any, loss during transmission, yeah, you could get all your energy from one place and send it everywhere else if you wanted to do it that way. But yeah, that's not feasible right now. That's why it should be geothermal where they have, say, a volcano or hot springs or the coast. It should be hydro where there's a dam or something else that can be exploited like that. Wind and solar, wherever they make the most sense, it should be done by region, if not locally. Just whatever works for that area is what they should be doing. If they're trying to do like a one size fits all for the entire country, yeah, of course it's going to be a clusterfuck, because that is the stupidest way to go about it.
Yeah. They don't call wind energy, the turbines, bird choppers for nothing. Have you seen any of them online?
It's not quite as bad as they make it out to be. Not in the general scheme of things, but they don't have to be turbines. I mean, all it is kinetic energy turned into electricity. So you could have like a pole standing up, and just the movement of it back and forth when the wind blows on it would be enough to create some electricity. You wouldn't have to have anything spinning. I mean, we could innovate our way into making wind and solar and all that stuff work if we wanted to. But the problem is the fossil fuel lobbies and the moneyed interests who have already become well established in those industries. Got a lot of money to throw around. They can influence quite effectively.
Pension funds in the media are invested in sort of like wind and solar, rather than the ones that produce lots of energy, which is cheaper and obviously will make people better off. So this is another instance we're working against the media. They go on about the green agenda, but they're not the ones who are going to be hit by higher fuel prices. Mind you, got my water bill today, so that's a bit excessive. But yeah, so really they should be aiming for getting clean, renewable energy and tons of it, so it's cheap. All those matter.
And unfortunately for the West, collectively, the people who are innovating the most right now on that front are the Chinese. But of course, we can't do business with them because we've decided they're the enemy. So we're just shooting ourselves in the foot as far as solar and stuff like that goes, because they are the leading edge of that technology.
China's an interesting case because it has zero natural resources, as in ores and that. So that's why they become manufacturers. But they discovered they got these massive rivers like the Yellow River, the Yangtze, and they can build dams all over it. But they've been building them with the lowest bidder, so to speak, and all the Communist Party corruption. So ever so often these dams burst, which I don't know how often that happens in the United States, but it doesn't happen in Britain.
It's happening more and more frequently. I can't remember the names of the places, but there have been dam collapses, and we've got a lot of infrastructure related problems, and it's because we can always find a few billion to spend on wars somewhere else. But as far as bridges and roads and other infrastructure here at home, Well, the first question they ask is, how are you going to pay for that? The question that they never ask when it comes to war or that kind of thing.
It's like the same over here. The British technology sector have developed something called Dragonfire laser systems, which can take out drones, aircraft. So it's effectively in Star Wars territory. And I don't know how much this stuff costs to develop, but they're just giving it to Ukraine now, which is the same as taxing everyone and giving them money, because that's all the research money gone over to Ukraine. And apparently it's quite simple to fuel. So the technology is quite easy to duplicate. So probably outside, how long is it going to be before the Russians get hold of it? It's going to be fairly universal sooner or later.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that yet. I mean, I remember Ronald Reagan's Star Wars initiative. I've been hearing about that stuff since then, but no like broad applications type stuff. Sort of like the rail gun. They talk about it every now and then. It comes up again, but actually seeing them deployed, like generally, not so much.
Yeah, it's yeah. Railgun, yeah, it's that magnetic energy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the, and they've built prototypes. You know, I've seen the videos of the prototypes firing, and they are very impressively destructive projectiles, I guess you could say.
Oh yeah,
but they're as far as I know, they're still not practical in a like an in the field type use. As far as I know, as far as I've heard, lasers are pretty much in that same category. Currently, the best way to knock down a missile is with another missile, like the Iron Dome or the Patriot system or whatever.
Yeah.
But those are rapidly becoming obsolete because now you've got the swarms. You got a bunch of drones. You've only got so many missiles to take them out, and now you're out of ammunition. And here come the subsonic or supersonic missiles, and just nothing you can do at that point. So yeah. war tactics are changing a lot. And a lot of it is because of this conflict in Ukraine that never had to happen to begin with. But it's a learning experience, that's for sure, for everybody involved.
Shall we wind it up now? Yeah.
I could do.